Welcome back. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to tune in. I am very excited to have Daniel Kleinman here today. He is a dear friend, but he's also the founder and CEO of Seaworthy Collective, an organization that's been very near and dear to my heart for almost 5 years. And it is a great honor to have him here with us today to talk to us about Seaworthy's journey, beginning where the organization currently is and the future. Daniel, welcome.
Thanks, Angela. It's great to be here. And, I've been lucky enough to share so much of the journey with you. So love to look back on it
I'm
and ahead.
I'm really excited because, as you know, I am such a big fan of Seaworthy Collective and the work that this organization's been doing for so many years now. Based in Miami, South Florida, but having global impact. Seaworthy Collective is an organization that if you've never had it on your radar, now is the time to put Seaworthy on your radar because this organization is doing so many incredible things for startups in the ocean conservation space and the blue economy space, but also for the community and community programs and bringing people together that are as interested in this topic as I am. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, Danielle, tell me a little bit about Seaworthy's origin story. How did this come about? Because your bio, which will be linked down below, is quite impressive. It feels like you could have taken many paths, you've had some incredible career experiences. So, tell me a little bit about that and how that led you to Seaworthy.
Yeah, I'll go all the way back to my initial inspiration to even get into ocean innovation. So back in 2012, I was a freshman, wrapping up my freshman year at the University of Florida, and James Cameron made the dive to the Marianas Trench. It was March of 2012, and it was just a light bulb moment for me where I was like, you can combine technology and exploration, and as a mechanical engineering student, eventual mechanical engineer, curiosity is like just the innate part of who we are, the trait of, I'd say, most mechanical engineers, except most of them are applying that toward going up to space and working for places like SpaceX and NASA. And I looked at the other way, the depths of our oceans, with equal, if not more, curiosity and excitement and understanding that, we have our own planet to worry about. And so with that inspiration, tried to find all the different ways to get involved in ocean exploration. I tried to intern at a submarine manufacturer here in Florida that literally a decade later, or not even, was manufacturing their own submarine that ended up going to the Marianas Trench more than anyone else tried
That's
submarines.
amazing.
Didn't get to work there, unfortunately, but I did get to work at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. I interned there. That was my dream internship. I got to work on hydrodynamics design of unmanned underwater vehicles and just with some of the most intelligent and impressive people I had ever met in my career, one of which is now an astronaut on the International Space Station, Laurel O'Hara. And with that, I just had such a validation for my passion, right? And that experience of tech and innovation for actually doing real good for the ocean. But, that was almost I don't want to say unrealistic, but like it gave me the ideal without understanding that that ideal is 0.001% of the opportunities that are out there. And as I graduated and got into the real world, I ended up working for MIT spin out in Boston called BlueTech Robotics, where I was a pilot and test engineer for their unmanned underwater vehicles. And that, on one hand, was a really cool opportunity, but really ended up focusing a lot in defense. And so, long story short, because I know I'm going going on a little bit, I really saw from then on my 5 year career in marine robotics, it was really focused primarily on defense applications, not really on things that could serve the planet. And so, as I started to take my other background in design and systems thinking and look at my lived experience as a marine roboticist, where after 5 years and three rejections from grad school, I just couldn't find a pathway to making an impact. I saw that kind of as a microcosm of these systemic barriers to participation in ocean innovation. If someone with Woods Hole on their resume and 5 years of experience in marine robotics can't find an opportunity, how the heck is someone, without an engineering degree, without a Woods Hole, or coming from a disadvantaged background, ever going to have that opportunity? So that was a big part of the inspiration for Seaworthy and building that opportunity for others that I never had in my own
I love
career.
that because it very much speaks to if there's a will, there's a way, right? And sometimes the best path is the path that you create for yourself. You saw a big gap You saw an opportunity to make a difference and you took that risk. And that takes a lot of courage because again, you could have, just continued to try over and over again for more of the traditional route, whatever that means. And instead you said, no, I'm going to chart a whole new path like the great ocean explorers that are out there charting paths all the time. And you said, I'm going to try something else and I'm going to fill this gap that I'm seeing. So then Seaworthy, right, starts to formulate, starts to come together. What were those early days like?
Yeah, so I'll go back to one other inspiration point to help paint the picture. So I touched on my background in design and systems thinking. In 2015, my last semester of undergrad, I got to do a fellowship called the University Innovation Fellowship. And not only did that introduce me to design and systems thinking, but what most importantly it introduced me to was a community in innovation and entrepreneurship that I very quickly realized were my people. And that stuck with me. I ended up mentoring for that program for over 5 years after I graduated. So that was my one connection through over time with innovation and entrepreneurship, and also just really how I like to think about problems. But as I started to think about Seaworthy and started to figure out what is this, what does it look like, especially from a mechanical engineer brain, what is the mechanism to create opportunity, right? And I talk about the marine sciences, there are more degrees than there are opportunities to do the work. And so um, I saw, incubators, accelerators, right? And of course, blending with innovation and entrepreneurship. At the end of 2020, I learned about the venture studio model, and that hit the nail on the head of the problem I wanted to solve. Venture studio is all about co-creating startups from scratch, building interdisciplinary teams. And I saw that through the lens of here's a way to actually create tangible opportunity to get involved in ocean innovation and also entrepreneurship. And that way we can start to build that future workforce and really future opportunities that haven't existed because it's still such a new field. And so that was really kind of the dot connection point of understanding not just the why, right, but the how of what it takes to actually build opportunity for people. And then from there, seeing the demand for those opportunities definitely existed.
That's incredible. So you was the idea for Seaworthy, now that you kind of had this revelation and you realized, wait a second, this is a model here that I can follow. This is something that I can kind of grow and start building. What were some of those actual first steps you had to take to say, we are here, we're launching?
So I'll start with first misstep and then first steps. Back in 2019, May or June of 2019 is when I first, actually no, even before that, March of 2019 was when I first wrote the idea down for Seaworthy Collective. I just said I want to start an ocean incubator accelerator, and then May or June is when I started the business plan. Fast forward almost a year or to March of 2020. First week of March 2020, I had accepted my offer to come back to South Florida, get my master's here at University of Miami. Most of my business plan was already done for Seaworthy. I actually finished it in May of 2020 or June, and on my birthday, first week of March 2020, I put in my notice at work. It was like celebrate, I was dancing. It was my birthday. I had it all figured out. Of course, the next week everything went to shit with COVID.
Oh, COVID. COVID, COVID,
Yes.
COVID, and that shut down. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Literally, I went from having total certainty, clarity in where I was going to all of it ripped away, literally in a matter of days. Long story short, of course, ended up reconfirming and making the move. And instead of building a community in person, I was doing everything virtually. So on one hand, that seemed, I thought that was going to be a setback, but it actually ended up being a great way since my network was not primarily South Florida based, since there hasn't been an ecosystem for doing ocean innovation in South Florida historically. I was able to tap into my connections at Woods Hole and people who graduated in my program and people that I connected with during COVID and got to networking and, just being able to bring these experts and these opportunities and knowledge of this niche to the forefront with starting with panels featuring people and then leading to actually announcing an opportunity for anyone who wanted to co-create a startup to apply to co-create with us. And so that was kind of those earliest days. And then I'll leave it at where we ended up with that first cohort was when we put that opportunity out there for people to co-create, we had existing startups coming to us and saying, we need help too. And so we realized there was a gap not only to help create this opportunity for people who were just trying to find their way into ocean innovation, but even people who had already taken the leap but still couldn't find the support they needed.
Let me ask you a question because I'm very curious about this, and I don't even know if we've ever even talked about it. In those early days, did you have naysayers? Did you have people that were like, I'm just curious because I feel
Yeah.
that it's one of those, well, look at us now moments, right? So I'm just
hmm
wondering if you did. I know that you have an incredible supportive group of friends and family and everything, but I'm just wondering if there was anyone lurking in the shadows talking about this isn't something to do.
I mean, definitely, the answer is definitely yes. I'll say, I'll first touch on actually, I think the most common thing that we don't talk about enough, which is imposter syndrome, because I think my biggest naysayer was myself, because, it's like I was a first time founder. Who was I to be starting this and supporting other businesses and other entrepreneurs when I didn't have experience as a founder, right? And, in retrospect or hindsight, the beautiful thing is that now my experience as a founder is something that I get to share, right? And the lived experience of being a first time founder with others. But, one of the most formative naysayer moments for me was, I launched Seaworthy while I was at University of Miami. And the dean of the Rosenstiel School, never forget this, when I presented Seaworthy to him, I wasn't even asking for money. I was just telling him, hey, here's my idea. What could we do with University of Miami Rosenstiel School? And he said to me, I don't see the pathways to commercialization. And all I did was lay out the blue economy. Yeah, it was a complete, and also, oh, and before he even said that, he said, sorry, we don't have any money for you. I wasn't even
What?
asking for money, but okay. Yeah, it
Oh,
was a start. Uh-huh. And so so it was just this moment that I was like, wow, you talk about systemic barriers, right? It's a cultural barrier
yes,
actually within academia, right? That was saying we don't entrepreneurship is not part of the culture in the marine science academia space. That they outright reject it rather than being open
yeah,
to it, even though it's literally opening up entirely new economic
yes.
opportunities for a very underfunded ecosystem.
This story is like when the school counselor told Michelle Obama she can't go to Princeton, and I'm just like, how can a school get it
Yeah.
wrong? So wrong. My goodness.
Yeah, and now our startups have raised $22 million. So I think
Yes,
that we might have proved that wrong. But I'm not to say, it was just this moment where I had, part of my fundamental vision for Seaworthy was that we needed academia and science backing, which of course we still have, but not in the formal base that you right, but in a more decentralized, hey, we have
right.
subject matter experts in our network. But that was originally what my aspiration was like, hey, let's leverage everything it has to support people. And it just ended up being a, cultural mismatch with what we
Yeah.
needed early on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you initially because now more than ever we need that, right? It's this public private partnership mentality where we do need all hands on deck for, which is a C word thing. We do need all hands on deck for what's going on and how we solve these problems. Well, anyways, yeah. So I want to get to the the part about where Seaworthy is today, because Seaworthy today, as you just mentioned, has basically set up these startups so that they are investable. And tell me a little bit about that. Because you just said a big number, so let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll start with the big number, but even that actually isn't even the thing I'm most proud of. But to start I want to say we work with the earliest stages of startups, right? So when we to connect the dots from, the that aha of supporting both co-creating startups and supporting existing early stage founders, right? We're working, I think in the startup space, early stage is a very wide umbrella. And I think we need to have a little more definitiveness to what it actually means, right? Where technically early stage can be pre-seed all the way up to Series A, which is raising a few million to tens of millions, right? So now I'm starting to actually focus in and say we work with the earliest stage, right? Which is pre-seed, seed stage, but
Yes.
more importantly, just founders who are just getting started and looking to get their footing in the ocean innovation ecosystem. When we started with our first cohort, I handled it solo, and we did our first two cohorts, 10 startups at a time, which was honestly an overwhelming amount of startups, but was our way to get our reps in. And while we had some early wins, the thing about working in a BlueTech ocean innovation is an emerging sector, right? It is super early days. And so there aren't like, oh, they graduated our cohort and they raised millions of dollars 3 months later. That didn't happen in the early years. But what's happened over time, which we now have 5 cohorts under our belt, right? And is that we've seen that in 5 cohorts and 40 startups, I should say, 78 entrepreneurs. And we've seen that, turnaround time to reaching milestones and progress just accelerate faster and faster, where cohort 4, people had pilots the month after they graduated. Cohort 5, within 3 months of graduating, all the startups who graduated cohort 5 have raised some form of capital. And
So
so,
awesome.
these things that are innate parts of, you know, innate parts of indicating success, but more importantly, showing that I like to call our program more of a process than a program, that our process is working. And so, our overarching impact numbers, right, as I mentioned, 40 startups, 70 entrepreneurs, $22 million raised. But when you look at the larger systemic impacts of what we've done, I mean, when it comes to building an ecosystem, right, there was no ecosystem for doing ocean innovation in
Right.
South Florida historically. That's why I worked in Boston and San Diego. And so in our first two cohorts, only 10%, 1 out of 10 of those startups in our first two cohorts were existing local to South Florida startups. Fast forward to our last three cohorts, and the majority have come from South Florida. And it's not because we all of a sudden decided to have favoritism. It's because we saw viable startups all of a sudden seeing the obvious opportunity that exists here for solving
Right.
sargassum, pollution, coastal resilience, right?
It gives
So
you
there you go.
confidence when you realize, wait a second, I don't have to move to try to build this thing. I'm seeing it happening already right here. And thanks to this organization, Seaworthy, that's helped create that environment for that. So that's been amazing. It's been amazing to see that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the thing we're most proud of. And that is the connection between the community work, which, for us, we've hosted now over 70 events, educating over 5,000 people on ocean innovation, right? And, creating role models, right, with the founders we've supported for future entrepreneurs to come in and see themselves in this space.
Exactly. And it's been incredible as well to see the community really rally around that. But also, just I think it's been a lot of fun also, Danielle, personally, just to watch you do cool things. You were
Thank
at,
you.
you've been to DC, you've been to the Capitol, you've been to Monaco twice now. You've been, you're everywhere. Really just waving that flag for Seaworthy and really sharing the success, the organization's success, so that others are buying into what you're trying to do, what you're trying to build, and the great team that you've built around you, because there's so many wonderful people at Seaworthy that I absolutely love. I want to talk a little bit about the showcase because it's an annual event. It's kind of Seaworthy's signature big event every fall. And I just think more people that never heard of Seaworthy and want to understand what Seaworthy is all about and attend a Seaworthy event. Even though Seaworthy does panels and other community events throughout the year, you can see about those in seaworthycollective.com. I'll link it below. But this showcase, like, you want to buy a ticket to the showcase. This is where you're going to see all the people, all the startups, all the team come together in an evening of celebrations in some of the coolest venues around town. So, talk to me a little bit about the fall showcase, and then I want to wrap up with where Seaworthy is headed.
All right. So yeah, so the fall showcase definitely, if you're, whether you've been part of the community or are looking to join, like, that is the number one way to just dive in headfirst into the world of ocean innovation with us. It's our demo day, quote unquote, right, which is the end of our cohort
Right.
where all of the startups we support end up sharing their pitches and progress publicly for the first time. And, for us, it's a way that not only we are elevating the incredible work that these founders are doing, but at the same time, really bringing the community together, right? And
Yes.
showing every year, right, we get to show this is the ecosystem coming to tangibly showing up for itself. And, for us, the really fun thing, I'll say, especially co-creating startup, right, is that you have 7 startups present now. These days we support 7 startups. 6 of them are existing founders that came in already with an idea building. One of them is a co-created startup, literally started from scratch. And if we do our job right, you can't tell which one was co-created and which one wasn't.
This is
So
true. You really
it's
can't tell. You really don't
yeah,
know.
it's a really fun thing that I think is pretty unique as far as having these things in parallel. And I'd say every year has been a great iteration. I think for what we're, I guess, just a little preview on the next steps piece. We really want to make this as interactive and collaborative of an event as possible. Because at the end of the day, this is all about making sure the founders get the support they need. We have past founders come and table. We have our latest wave, obviously, pitch, but then there's, just all different ways that people can come to the table and share what they have with the community to help support these founders,
Yes.
because everyone wants to see them
And I
succeed.
also want to say, for businesses that are interested in supporting this incredible work, we're never going to turn down a sponsorship, right? There's never going to be a
Yep.
sponsorship turn. So if you want to be a sponsor, okay, and really truly see an ROI, because I get it, right? A lot of places you can sponsor, a lot of places and great organizations that need all the funds they can get. But there's a case to be made about why you should be sponsoring Seaworthy Collective and why you should be a sponsor for their annual showcase. So yes, I highly encourage you visit the website and learn about the sponsorships opportunities. Someone on the team can send you a deck. There's a good deck out there if you want to know more about that. So just something to think about as you're listening to Danielle's story and watching this video and all the amazing work. You will see a return on your investment in terms of your connection and exposure and visibility with getting involved with Seaworthy. So just wanted to plug that in. Also, so Daniel, tell me, where is Seaworthy heading? Because sky is the limit. I think no matter what happens, whatever ups and downs might be on the horizon, like every organization has its ups and downs. No matter what happens, I know that Seaworthy will persevere all those types of things. And so I'm just thinking about what's the vision? Where is Seaworthy headed?
Yeah, so I'll start with, I guess, the biggest milestone that's been enabling our vision to start, which is that at the end of 2024, we won a $14 million grant from NOAA under the Ocean Enterprise Accelerators that is funding us all the way through 2029. And so that is, right now the thing that's finally enabling us to have a longer term vision on our work. And so, we're this just in a few weeks launching our next cohort featuring these ocean data startups that fall under the Ocean Enterprise. And that's where we're going to be.
How far Seaworthy has come. The sixth cohort, the application's already closed by the time you've seen this video.
Mhm.
And there were tons and tons and tons of applications, as there have been every year. So yeah, it's going to continue to be an amazing cohort experience with an ocean data focus this time around. So again, all this information is going to be linked down below and what that means and why that's been a little bit different than what Seaworthy's been doing in the past. But it just really speaks to Seaworthy's evolution and the importance and focus around data.
Yep. And then beyond that, though, that's kind of what's really cool is that's kind of the foundation, right, for us to be building long term. And so, we have the fellowship that we did in 2024 that, was our proof of concept that we can literally take students that don't even know what ocean innovation looks like and help them not only build their own startups, but even get to a point of co-creating
Love
one in
that.
our cohort and getting funding to
I
do that,
love
which
that. I hope Seaworthy does more
are my
of
favorite
that
stories.
because it was so cool
Me
to
too.
meet these young students that are just so bright and inspiring. And, this education is key.
Yeah. Well, education and, just again, it gets back to, I always love to say, like, education without access to opportunity, I want to say is wasted, is a huge missed opportunity.
Right.
And
I
so,
agree.
how are we ensuring that that opportunity exists? And that's why we want to make sure we have that connection between not just educating, but leading people to tangible opportunity, whether it's co-creating a startup or growing an existing one with us. But all that to say, as far as kind of where we're going, we definitely have opportunities on the horizon to start scaling our work beyond Miami, which is really exciting. But honestly, where I am most excited and where I've been very focused and we'll definitely have more to share in the coming months is on investment and how do we
Yes.
mobilize capital into these earliest stage startups. Venture capital really the best model for these startups, or is there another way that we can actually meet founders where they're at with capital that's more patient, risk tolerant, analytic, and it can even help not only de-risk but incentivize investment in startups? And all of that has been something we've been working on for over a year that we are really, really excited to roll out with our investment vehicle, Regeneracy, that we'll be sharing more details on in the months to come.
So I encourage viewers, listeners to keep checking back because I'm also very fascinated with this vision, Daniel, of what you're trying to roll out. And I think it's very much needed, especially right now. There is an increasing conversations around investments in these spaces. And so it's always interesting to hear about new approaches and the conversation of what the pathway is for this. So that's really exciting. So we are going to be wrapping up now. Daniel, any final words, anything you want to share um, with audience?
I just want to say thank you to you, Angela, first and foremost. We got to share the journey. Angela and I met on a dive trip in 2021, I believe, or end of 2020
It
even.
was close to the end of
Um,
2020 when like people
End of
realized
2020.
that diving is safe-ish. It's really hard to catch COVID
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
stuff and underwater. So things are just starting to open up little by little. Yeah, I was like, I need to dive. That's going to help my sanity. And I just went by myself because it's weird, right? It was a weird time. And so I decided to just go on this diving trip by myself. And Daniel was there by himself. And so they made us dive buddies because safety first, you have to have a dive buddy always. And that's
Mhm.
how this whole thing came to be. So
Yeah.
good times.
And well, all that to say, right? I think when I look back on now almost 5 years of Seaworthy, right? Like the beauty of this journey is getting to share the journey with amazing people and create so many meaningful memories, but also, I think, you know, we use the word impact a lot, right? But it's really I've learned more outcomes is more important than overarching impact, right? And like the outcomes we've created for the community, for the ecosystem, for these entrepreneurs, it's truly something that I think we can stand behind with full confidence and pride that we've moved the needle already, and we're still crazy enough to say just getting started. I've heard it takes 5 years to build an ecosystemic organization like ours, and we're just hitting that threshold. And to survive to that threshold is also its own
Yes,
accomplishment.
and you're
So
almost at
just to say,
you're almost at that 5-year mark too, which is such an exciting thing. We have to figure out what your 5-year anniversary celebration is gonna be like, because 'cause I'll be there. And I did wanna share that, yeah, Seaworthy's had tremendous impact, and one of the ways that it's impacted me is to help me connect with people in this kind of ocean conservation space, because I was just someone who loved the ocean, someone who loved scuba diving, but didn't know, except for maybe other scuba divers at the dive shop, I didn't really know anyone that wanted to scuba dive with purpose, I guess, wanted to just do their part in ocean conservation space. And since I got involved with Seaworthy, that's just changed my whole entire trajectory and in terms of that. So I have Seaworthy to thank for that, because otherwise I just would not have met the people that I've met. I would not have known about the organizations that I know about, and my knowledge grows every day with the incoming cohorts each year after year. And I'm like, look at this startup doing this cool thing, and look at what that startup's doing, and oh, this is so cool. And otherwise, I just don't know how I would have, kind of stepped into this world. And so to that, I'm grateful for Seaworthy. So it's had that impact on me. And so,
so as the moral of the story is you should go diving solo more often.
I mean, listen, I will scuba dive solo, I'll scuba dive with the group, I'll scuba dive anytime. I haven't been in a while, and so
I
it's
know.
it's coming up. I feel
We're gonna do a trip after the showcase
we
this year. I'm
should,
betting
we
on it.
should,
So
we should. So I'm past due for a dive trip, but I feel one coming on, and I can't wait because I miss the ocean. I always say my gills are drying up. I really need to get out there again,
ooh,
But anyways,
yeah.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. This means everything. Again, Seaworthy is just so wonderful. Whether if you know about Seaworthy, obviously like and comment and subscribe. If you're just hearing about Seaworthy, please still like and comment and subscribe. A lot of things will be linked below. And I truly appreciate you tuning in for another episode. Please keep checking back and stay tuned for another. In the meantime, Daniel, keep rocking, and thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Kyle.